Welcome to the Purpose Path Podcast, a podcast about real transformation, soul remembrance, and living in deep alignment. I'm Chenzo, an intuitive coach and guide for high sensitive souls. In this space, we explore the raw and radiant journey of becoming who you truly are. Let's begin. Today, I'm joined by Sandra Tru on the Purpose Path podcast. Sandra is a transformational guide and facilitator who supports self-aware, visionary leaders in moving from insight into embodiment. So their growth actually shows up in how they live, lead, and create. Her work is rooted in lived experiences, nervous system wisdom, and personal responsibility. Rather than adding more concepts, she helps people reconnect to their inner authority and live from alignment instead of pressure. So, Sandra, welcome. How are you feeling as we start this conversation?
Chensa, I feel so honored. Thank you so much for considering me for this chat. How amazing. Congrats on your podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's new. It's still in the baby shoes, but already the beautiful souls I really get inspired by. I invited them and all said to me like yes, and they didn't know why, but they felt a big yes in their heart. So I also feel it's guided. Yeah.
This work is guided for sure. For sure.
So what's alive for you in this season of your life?
Creation. Really, I'm in winter. I don't know how is Portugal right now, but I'm in winter in Miami, and I could really sense the difference of temperature. And a lot of my work focuses on matching personal nature to great nature. And so a lot of that is in honoring the seasons that we're in. And the season that we're in is the invitation to drop in, to let the vision drop in. And so I've been doing a lot of that, creating a lot of space to clarify what it is that I really feel called to be doing. Who do I want to feel? Who do I know that I can serve at a greater level? What are the activities that are in alignment with my vision? What are the habits, the systems that can essentially close the gap between my goal, which is an outcome, and it's like, is only there to help me embody what I want to embody. And essentially that, right? So I can close the gap between where I want to be and essentially bring it into how I am embodying this moment. So winter allows me, or I use winter, and I invite the people that I work with to use the seasons, like, for example, winter, to allow them to expand their capacity to imagine better, to see the better vision for themselves, because I really believe that, our capacity to have a better image of who we want to be is the path towards transforming our lives. Unless we can see it and have the consistency of committing ourselves to being that vision, then it's just like we're wasting our time.
Yeah, that's true. And it is so beautiful because you said about the seasons, and it's for me as well. Like summer is like really outgoing and like showing myself, and winter is really staying inside, like look inside myself. What do I feel? What do I need to nurture myself, to go back in the womb?
Yeah, because that's what you're doing.
Yeah, and also get more in touch with my feminine energy, creativity, rest, like abundance, nature.
Yeah. Totally, we're in the depth of the yin season, right? Which is really about going deep into our roots and structuring from the underneath. And this is such a good time to do the kind of work that you and I do, right? To do the inner work, the shadow work, the alignment work, the integration work, to go inwards, to connect to our desires, our wants, to get very clear on what are the things that our ego is thinking it wants, and what is it that's underneath that. Like, what's actually what are the activities, the things that actually will fulfill us? So many times we're going for the egoic desire of what culture is saying we should want, but we're just trying to get something. But what we're going for is like the underneath feeling of what we think it will give us. And so it's like, it's very good. It's a great time to start thinking about what is it that I'm really after. What is it that I'm really after?
Yeah. And also like looking at yourself like, what is it what I think I need, and is it truly that what I need, or is it just a desire of something what I made up in my mind, or even picked up from others, right?
Mhm.
Like I look
Yep,
to the others, I see them happy, they have this or they have that, so I should have that too to be happy. Yeah,
100%.
but really dive into yourself is like also touching your authenticity. Who am And you don't want to be a copycat of nobody. So
Yeah.
um and to be honest, like to be in authenticity, in raw authenticity, it's such a gift, because you don't have to think anymore about what other people would think from you. And no, if you stay with your heart in your true, and you do everything from your heart, then you don't have to um think if it's right or not right, right? You just stay in your heart and you just live and be.
Yeah, I feel that
How?
so much of the suffering that I've gone myself through in my life, has been um, through comparing myself. And I see that a lot with working with people. And it's almost impossible to tell people, like, don't compare yourself, even though that's something that we tend to do as coaches. Don't, comparison is a root of suffering, essentially. But at the
Uh-huh.
core is that it's almost because of how our brain is built, it's almost an impossibility. So I think something really helpful for people to consider is that comparison is just going to be there, but our job is to learn how to work with it, right? So like at a small level, it's like I can compare myself to my newsletter, right? I can compare my newsletter to some another writer that I really like how he writes newsletters, and so I can compare it and get some insight, and that in that way it's helpful, right? But if I'm comparing his life to my life, his worth to my worth, then I'm really taking myself out of my center, because
Exactly.
his life is completely different. His journey has been completely different. So comparison is that thing that at a narrow level can be really good to help us increase our capacity, expand, but at a broader sense, it makes no sense. It's a waste of vitality.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been working on in my life, as of being very, very driven, and knowing how that has been one of the ways in the past that I have leaked a lot of energy in
Hmm.
comparison.
Yeah. And when you felt that started, like what, like on a young age, when you were already a child, or when you became a teenager, or?
Well, in the path of, I think that most humans were here with the necessity to feel significant, to feel significant. And so,
Mm.
my journey was a very challenging journey. I grew up with many caretakers. And so when I look back at my story and I think back on how I was overstudying and overdoing and working nonstop and doing all the things and never stopping and just hustle, hustle, hustle. That was my, I never stopped. I worked 7 days. I worked all the things. I was in theater and fashion school. I was consuming in amounts of material. I was just taking everything in for a really long time. I was insomniac for a decade. And when I look at, even though that was really helpful now, but in hindsight, I think that so much of that was almost like if I needed to prove my worth.
Mm.
It was almost a necessity to prove that I mattered, that I was significant, that I that I was something and someone, and I deserved to be loved in a way.
Mm. Mm.
And I think that that's what I see a lot of people that are burning out. Like now when I work with clients and they're doing all these things, like, yeah, I just want to grow up, but why?
Mm.
That's really good that we're always reaching. It's really good to continue to increase and expanding. But if we're sacrificing ourselves, or if we are betraying ourselves, burning ourselves out for some goal that somebody else said we should be getting, then it's like we're
Mm.
missing the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and another thing what came up to my when you spoke about this is also that there is there is the possibility that you start to make it your authentic, or how do you say that, your authenticity, that
Yeah.
your work has become your authenticity.
Oh, your identity. Yeah.
Identity, yeah, sorry, your
Mm-hmm.
identity. And so this is what I saw, what I was doing when I was, like, for example, I was an arborist. I climb up in the tree and it's like a specialist work, and I found myself really cool. But then in the first conversation was like, hey, who are you? I'm Chenzo, I'm an arborist. I was
Mm-hmm.
so proud of it, but it became an identity of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, that's like, no. Then I was thinking about it. It's like, no, Chenzo is way
Yeah.
more than an arborist. And then and you see that a lot. Also, what I also see a lot with my clients is that they work, and especially the men I work with, and they make it their identity, but they also hide away behind the work so they don't have to go deep into their emotions and feelings.
Mm.
And so when I really ask them to stop, to put that identity away for a moment, and to really start breathing in, and to just not stop, just not thinking about work, but just go within, they find it really scary, right?
Mm.
And I really love to do that because I did that myself as well. I worked a lot with about my emotions, about my feelings, and I can say I'm really happy that now I'm a man who can really speak out and really clearly what his emotions are and where it comes from. Or even if I get triggered with my girlfriend, like I say, I can say, wait, I feel I get triggered. Can I have a moment so I can see
Mm.
where it comes from, and then we find each other back, but from a whole different point of view.
Yeah. So what
And
you're
that's really
speaking,
helpful.
beautiful. So two things that I'm hearing from what you're saying. The first thing is that the importance of understanding who we are beyond our identity. And the
Mm,
other thing is that the beauty of knowing who we are and developing emotional mastery, right? Like in developing our EQ, is that it allows us to have our feelings. And when we have the capacity to sustain the feeling, then we're no longer being it no longer takes over our identity, so we don't have to take it out on someone and project it on someone. But what we do is that I can acknowledge it, I can feel it, I can tell you about it, which already releases the tension because I'm speaking it, and therefore can ask for what I need in order to have my needs met. And so when we're speaking about identity, if I can go back to that, Chenso,
yeah, please.
is that a lot of people, a lot of us, I feel like it's the biggest thing, is like our identity, whether it's because of a title that we're giving in our place of job, or because of a story, a trauma that has happened to us, because of a relationship that we're in, or anything that we can name that we are. I'm a mother, I'm a child, I'm a CEO, I am an entrepreneur, I am whatever it is. If
Any title.
any title, anything, any role, any,
Role.
those are all, you can think about them as masks. They are things that you put on that have an archetypal energy. Archetypes are so fun. They are what build an identity. I love playing with archetypes, and it is needed. We need them. I think where we get lost is on when we get lost in identities, when we confuse the fact that we have these archetypal energies, we have these roles that we can play with, versus I am that, like that is the soul of who I am. And it's so important to develop the differentiation between this is this character, this role. Sandra as a coach here, I am a coach. That is a role. That is an archetype that I'm playing in this avatar of Sandra. But at the center of me, and really that's a development, in the center of my consciousness, the truth that I am, there is not a body, there is not a mind, there is not sensations, there is all of that, but then there is the guiding presence that has the capacity to witness all of that, and at the same time has the capacity to direct it. And it's through practices like mindfulness, like meditation, like having our feelings, like journaling, like consistently dropping into sense, who am I beyond this role, that we can get clearer and clearer on the truth of what's there. That there's a presencing that needs to be honored. And it's almost like we do all this witnessing outside, but our job is essentially to start witnessing inside and start facing who is doing the looking, who is doing the witnessing, right? Who is the one, what is the part of us that has the capacity to choose how we act, how we think, and to develop that. And that's what makes an authentic life. That level of care for our human experience is what makes a life worth living, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And also, yeah, free yourself from other people's opinions, but also from the brain. The brain is like putting stuff up to you, and it's all programmed from your youth on. It's all programmed from society, from school, and to just start listening and questioning your brain, your
Mhm.
thoughts. And for that, you need to become the viewer and the listener. And that's really nice that you bring that up.
Mhm.
Um, and what I think, because so for example, when I was young, they called me that I have ADHD. Okay, cool. You can put it a sticker on it, whatever. Um, yeah, but I just thought I'm a child. I was really energetic, and I just didn't need to be sitting 8 hours in a classroom. And for example, you could show me how to fix a car. You show me one time, and I could fix that car. Like, and other people should were learning 1 year in a book for that, right? So, but what I want to go to is like I felt like I was different in that in than them, and I wanted to become as them because I wanted to be normal, right?
Mhm.
So did you experience something like that when you were young as well?
Almost the same story. You know,
Yeah,
when they say like when they give us a title, something like that, you know, HD
yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
it is more. And I think it's important for people to know this, that neurodiversity is such a big spectrum, but these titles are actually not exactly uniquely to this part of like how we are built. They are actually more for billing. You know, doctors have this title so that they can bill. They're
Yeah,
not necessarily giving us a vendetta of like who and how much we're worth. The truth is that some of us are built to think and feel, and we are kinetic. Some people are just have different ways of learning. And when they give us these titles, or you know, in my case it was the same thing. I'm a mover, I'm a toucher, and I can't even sit down. I'm on a standing desk because I need to be moving. I learned through doing, through touching. I'm a sensorial being. And so same thing, I came to the United States when I was 8, and I didn't know the language, I didn't know English, and it was so difficult because I had come from Colombia. I was born in Colombia, where the schools have so much of the daily activity outside and in the trees and building with ceramic and trees and doing and what. And here and in New York, it was brick building to a brick school. And it was so hard for me to learn the language because I was in such I had a very violent and crazy teacher, and he would just
mm,
yell and I didn't understand. It's very hard for a human to feel creative, or for that brain to feel safe enough to accumulate information when it feels fear. And so
exactly.
then it took me a long time to learn. And thankfully, my mom didn't believe in any of this of like taking a kid to the psychologist. It was just like,
Mm,
she'll figure it out. um,
right.
thank God.
Yeah.
And I just watched the documentary of a guy, the Netflix special of a guy saying that Latina moms don't allow their children to have depression or to have anything else.
Is that true? Is that true?
Kind of, because
Yeah.
it's like the moment that you say something, it's like, well, I will tell you my story.
Yeah.
But I feel very much like you, that there's so many people that have been told that they are not normal, because essentially they do not there's a wild spirit inside of us, which I really believe that is the spirit of the artist, that all of us have. Just some of us have it with more desire for revolution, that free spirited energy that has a hard time being put in a box. And
Yeah.
so the culture that we live in, the program that we live in, is saying essentially, when you're born, is like, here's a crib, and then here's a desk, and then here's a cubicle, and then here's a coffin, and your whole life you're spent in a box. But that's the machine of productivity. Because if you
Mhm.
learn to just repeat things, if you learn just to repeat what I tell you, then you would be a really good part of the machine.
Yeah.
But if you're wild and you want to go on your own thing and you want to go learning, that doesn't add to productivity. And
Yeah.
so the biggest wound for a human is to not belong. And so it's very painful for the creative spirit, which we all have, or for people that have the tendency to be more creative or to be more on the healing side of things, or to have a connection to something subtle, to feel like they belong, because we have to go on our own way. But it's, I'm sorry for cursing, but
No, don't worry.
it's scary. It's scary to go on our own way, because it means going solo. And I think that the fact of allowing ourselves to make a statement for life, whether that is through a creation like this podcast, whether that is through a painting, whether that is through making up some sort of business, which is what most of us are doing these days. Like, whatever business I'm doing, I'm making it up. But that is a statement, or any art of creation is a statement that says, I'm gonna stick out as a sore thumb because I have a right to exist and to be different. I have a right to exist. That is almost honoring life itself, to say, I am alive, and that is a miracle, and I can experience myself outside of the mold.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I hear so many stuff. And so one question what came up is like, how did theater help you out because I'm really inspired by the theater world, and I wanted to go to theater school, and I definitely know that helped you so much, because there's so much self-development classes in there, even if you want it or not. It's like, and
Totally.
self-expression, and like you have to go all these things what comes up. You have to play roles what maybe comes close to a wound you have. Like, can you share a bit about that?
That's beautiful. I was speaking about this just Monday night with a couple of my friends and partners that I'm creating with, and I was just saying how grateful I am for the practice of theater and acting, because I didn't know I had traumas. But then I was part of my theater training was that we did so much script analysis. And so we would take these scripts and study a character's life story, and learning that process. And then, like, help me kind of track the way that I still do with people now. I still track their timeline, and I still track the reasons, and I still work in that way. But then I was working with one of my first mentors, because I didn't grow up with my father. So I think that when we don't grow up with our parents, or when many of us have had to reparent ourselves, which I did, I was very lucky that I was able to have amazing mentors in my life, because my mother was 19 when she had me. My father was 20. I came to children having children. And so for many years I lived without my parents. I was with a lot of different caretakers. I lived with I didn't meet up with my mom until I was almost 9 in New York. So there was a lot of changes in my life as a child, and there was a lot of longing and of heartbreak, of feeling abandoned, and but I didn't acknowledge that was hard, because I was not allowed to. So all of that kind of stayed repressed there. And this very vibrant child that I was when I lived with my mom until I was like 4, before she moved to the States to create a better future for my brother and I, was that all of that energy kind of became repressed, and all that colorful nature was no longer accepted or understood as much as it was with my mom, when my mom was my main caretaker. And so theater allowed me to see those that a lot of that was challenging. And it allowed me to see it, because it started to show me that I was going for the kind of roles that had the same wounds. I was attracted to the same kind of characters that had that dealt with things of abandonment, of taboo sexuality, of things that in my own journey I had gone through and had survived, and had quietly burning inside of me, that so many things that eventually took me to therapy, and eventually took me into doing plant medicine, and eventually took me into doing thank God for yoga too, because I had the same practice. At the same time that I started working as an actor, I also just went deep into the practice of yoga. And so on one front, I was very fascinated by how I was experiencing that my personality was not set in stone, because I was practicing these new habits and these new mannerisms and these new stories in my mind. And then I would practice and practice and practice. And then I would go on stage sometimes, and this new spirit would kind of take over my body. And I was having these channeling experiences, which now in hindsight, I can say like that was some of the most mystical time of my life. But then I was also exploring doing so much voice work as an actor, and then teaching myself the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and doing all these exercises and going into these DMT experiences naturally, that eventually when I started working more consistently with plant medicine, I was like, oh my God, I've been here naturally, you know? And so on one side, I was doing this exploration of how the personality is not set in stone, that our personality can shift because of our internal, external environment, and because of the habits and because of the choices that we're making with our body, with our thoughts, with our actions. And I was like, oh my God, I can change myself. Yeah. And then as a yogi, I was studying who am I beyond this character of Sandra? Who am I beyond this personality? I was having these opening experiences that were taking me into this belonging space that was beyond this realm. And these practices of what you mentioned, Chensa, which is like the using the breath in order to connect to the life force that is already there, the belonging that could never not be, you know. And so then I was traveling alone by myself and introducing myself to people, and I was like, oh, I can make myself up in this moment, you know, because I'm no longer married to the story of all the things that happened to Sandra when she was little. But I could be like, oh, I can change my past simply by choosing that. You know, so theater was super important for me. And even in the way that I work today, because I still work, I feel like I went from being the actor to being the stage, where now people, you know, where I create this spaces of transformation where people can allow the truth of their emergence to reveal itself.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, so my story with theater was that I went to my parents and they say, yeah, you have to choose a direction for school now. And I say, okay, cool, I want to do theater and singing. And she was like, no, you're a man, you have to provide for the family, like you have to be a carpenter or working with metal or fixing cars. And I was like, I don't want that. I want to be on the stage. I want to perform. I want to sing and dance. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. So they didn't allow me to do it. In a later stage, I lived in Berlin for a while, and there was impro classes, and I was like, I went there, and my God, it was so amazing. I loved it because the main key, what helped for me with impro was like I really was in touch with my inner child, and my inner child could run, play, roll, scream, sing, whatever the child wanted to do. That was so lovely, and that was for me one of the keys. I'm like, yeah, I want to be in touch with my inner child again.
I love that.
And I felt that, and that's for me, that's theater. And I know as well there's way more. My mom is also my spiritual mom, is also she comes from the theater world, and I've been a lot with her to her place, and yeah, for me that's amazing. So if I would ask you one of your roles, one of the names, can you name me one name of one of the roles you played?
Well, I haven't been acting for a while, so I don't remember.
Yeah, just one name. Can you remember one name?
I don't remember the names. Not like this. I mean,
Okay.
they will come, but I mean, I've done so many. I've done theater. I've done films. I've done so much work. You know, short.
Because I wanted to do a little research. Like if we bring that name up and you will just like feel into that, would that identity come back to you because you were really like in that role for times? Like
I mean, there were some roles that took me to therapy. You know, like there were roles where there was a role that I was experiencing. I was working on this play called I think it was called The Motherfucker with the Hat. And it was this role of a woman who was an addict. and she was an addict, and it was very interesting because it like helped me touch on like a really dark side of myself. And so then I started going and studying like what happens to women, like what was happening to women around that time. And then I was kind of feeling so much of that, like the abuse, like what happens to women when there's no protection and poverty. And I got so much into the story that it started to feel like it was happening to me, and I started to feel on alert. And that's the power of images, and and at the time I didn't have the kind of tools that I have now. I started to look at like her story and how she had been gone through. I mean, it had a tether, like a feather of the same kind of signature of some of the things that I went through, but just extreme, dramatized. And because it touched something in me, and perhaps a different lifetime from things that I have gone through, or like perhaps things in my lineage, it made me so sensitive, and it just put me in such a depressed state. From that experience, I realized, in hindsight, of course, the power of the information that we consume and the environments that we put ourselves in. Because like if we're looking at the news, if we're if we're looking at all the bad things that are happening in the world, and I'm using my imagination to essentially hypnotize myself, to go into that world, to live it, to think about it, to be so involved in it that it starts to become my expectation, then it's like now we're really hurting ourselves. And so from that, I started to realize, when I was out of that experience and I was looking back, I started to realize, thank God, because I was gifted The Loss of Success by Napoleon Hill. And he speaks about autosuggestion and how suggestive we are as human beings. And I was so grateful that I got that book when I was at such a young age, because I got kicked out of my house at 17, so I was on my own very early. And just having like mentors, like, this person lived many, many years ago, but he was one of my mentors of understanding how the mind worked. And so it took me out of acting. Actually, that was the first time I left acting, because I was like, I didn't have the tools, and I had to do my own work. I had to do my own inner healing. And so when it comes to really understanding how our brain is essentially, I like to think about it as like our consciousness is like sunlight. You put the sunlight on some seeds and those seeds just grow. And so it's the same way, like whatever I'm giving my sunshine of consciousness to is just making it grow. It's giving life. Like this consciousness of ours is like life making, life giving. And so if we start to understand that, and you can think about like, why not start to study the lives of people I admire, and why not start to study the archetypes of people in history that made amazing things, and start to obsess about it, and look at their life and their story, and really think about, how can I get those qualities? How can I adopt those qualities into my life so that it becomes my expectation? And so that's something that, I hope that people listening to this can, that our power to model, to self-hypnotize is incredible. Like we're not just creatures, we have the creative power, which is our attention. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's beautiful that you say that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And it's also like the people you surround yourself with, you will also feel more like for example, when I had like a time that I was in a bit lower energy, when I look to my surroundings were in the same level.
Oh
And I
yeah.
also felt that I was meeting them there. And then when I was thinking about it, I was like, I wanted to help to support them, to lift them up, but then in the end I was going down. It's like, and I had to make choices. Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I don't want to stay here, because I mean, if you want to come up with me, you can come up with me, but if you don't want to come up with me, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go. I'm not gonna stay down. So
Yeah, I
and I
love
also feel I would love to stay. I'm also like really focusing on who can I be surrounded with, the people who I get inspired with, and I can inspire them. and it's
Totally.
such a joy.
Yeah.
Life becomes so much easier. But
Totally.
yeah, also, I don't watch television. I mean,
Me
I
neither.
don't have a television for
Mm-mm.
years.
Me too.
But
Same.
but nowadays, like for example, Facebook and Instagram, I see also all the drama coming up. So I also have to um, be aware of how many time or how long time I spend on social media, and how many information I will want to put into my brain.
And who
Uh,
you're following. I think the most important thing is like who are you allowing into your field? It's
into
like
your yeah.
there has to be such huge discernment for your eye of consciousness. It's like you have to understand. And I like, if you take anything out of this conversation, is that your attention is the ruler of your life. Like what you're looking at, what you are consistently ingesting, whether that is through food, through environment, through what's around your space, through that is what you're listening to, what you're putting into your system, eventually has to come out through you. So whatever you're putting into you, whether that is the bad news, like I follow the good news on Instagram,
Yeah.
right? It's like this channel that is the good news. There's so much good stuff happening in the world.
Nice. Yeah.
But if I'm looking at like um the news that is essentially a marketing scam, and really you want to think about it like, yes, it's important to get informed. You can also read what's important. If you're following the stocks or whatever, like read what's important. You don't have to observe the images. The images are storytelling. They are giving us information, right?
Interesting.
But you can also think about like, how can I stay informed without the drama? Because the news and the movies that were, all this horror and all this, when the world end kind of movies, and all the war movies, it's like maybe that's helpful, but also maybe that's just giving you expectation for a doomsday kind of world, versus why not look at all the beauty that's happening in the world? Why not give your attention to that, so you can be a part of the more beautiful world that we know is possible? As Charles Einstein says, like, what is the better vision that we have, that we want to be a part of? Like, we ourselves are an embodiment of a message,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
what message are you
I also feel really strongly that, I mean, it's television. They televise
sharing? A
some
vision.
stuff and they program,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that 100% that they need us. They need us to think it, to feel it, to see it, in order to make it come true. The agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can also help the whole world to become more positive, to drag it to the other side, to focus
Mm-hmm.
on positive
Totally.
news, and share
Mm-hmm.
share that with each other, and be
Yeah,
nice to
and
each other.
something you're bringing to mind is how we, I think something happens when we first go on this spiritual journey of understanding. And I think most of your listeners, also my audience, is going through a big awakening of like, oh my God, I'm connected to everything. Or like, oh my God, I am important. What I do is important and it matters. Or they have gone through this big transition in their life, and they know that it's time to do things differently. And what happens when we start to have these awakenings is that unconsciously we start having better lives. We have better boundaries, and we have better choices with our health, and better choices with our environment. And now all of a sudden we go through the process of wanting to save everybody. And we want to save everybody. So we end up being like the healthy cell in a oftentimes in an environment that is not so healthy. And now we feel like we have to save the people in this environment. What I've realized from having done that myself is that it doesn't work. The gates of change can only open from the inside. Our job is to get as healthier as we can, and understand that we are like the world is like the organism of Gaia, right? Like the body of Gaia. The healthier that one cell gets, the healthier that the cells around it naturally get, but not because of what you preach or ask or expect or judge from them, but simply because they can't, you become a virus. Our energy is like a virus. And so it's the same way that maybe it won't be your family, and maybe it will not be your friends who will come to meet you. Maybe you will go through a time in your life where you will have to be alone for a while. And then that cleanliness that you create for your life will start to bring in the right people that you don't have to save, that you can simply come and share vitality with, that you can share, that you can share aliveness with. Because this work, and especially if people are trying to do coaching or healing work of some kind, is really not about doing anything for people besides creating
guiding them
containers to remember
to remember who they
themselves.
are.
That's it.
Yeah,
So
and just offer them some tools. That's the amazing thing. It's like, look, here we have some tools. This works. Maybe not for you. Maybe for
you.
but yeah, hey, try it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
also like, but when they are ready, and when they say
When they are ready.
I'm in, not when we
Yeah.
preach, it's the
Yeah.
most beautiful thing, because I've gone on this journey where in the beginning I was the crazy witch, the crazy person that was talking about all these things. Then I went and did my own thing and started working with people and started, I was like the weird yogi 10 years ago, with all this out there information, and I was teaching and I was doing all these things. But eventually it's like, now I have conversations with people in my family where I'm like, give me a pen and paper, because I want to learn from
Beautiful,
like
huh?
their wisdom, right? But it
Exactly.
took them like this whole, their own journey, So it's just trusting that people will move towards their development if that's what they're here to do, but it's not on our own timing. We have to respect that. That's important.
When I was 18, I started traveling, and I went to South America. And I knew my grandma did tarot, my aunties did tarot, and I went into this spiritual holistic shop with beautiful crystals, and I love crystals. So I went in there, and this shaman was there, and he had like, you want to learn to read tarot? And I was like, can I learn to read tarot? And he said, you, ha 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 ha. I was like, why are you laughing at me? Like, and I was like feeling like, am I not good enough and things like that. And he said, like, I don't need to teach you anything, man. You are already connected with it. He says, just take one card deck. So it's still this card deck, and I choose it. I went over with my hand. I felt it was really hot, and this one, but it was also the most expensive one. And I was like, in my brain, I was like, no, you only want to choose that one because it's expensive. That's a mind fuck. And it's funny because the card is now already here. And if you choose my card in the tarot, it's the Fool. And who's here? The Fool. So it was like this, the deck. I touched it, I felt it, I said, this is it. And I put it back, but I put it back like that. This was the top one. And then I was like going like, no, this is the most expensive one. So I went again, and now I used my eyes and looked over it. And all the card decks were the same, except this one. And this was my card, the Fool, number one, the 0. So I was like, okay, this is my card. And the shaman says, I'm gonna have a call from America, and you gonna do the tarot deck. And I said, no, man, I cannot do that. He said, you can do it. So he let me do the tarot, and he was behind me, and he says, like, yeah, you just have to feel like you did, and the cards will jump out, and you just tune into the cards, and you will you will feel the story will come to you. And that exactly happened. And it was not the ego, it was from a different place. It's like it was like a download. I just start hearing myself talking, right? So this leads to the other story. I figured it out. My ego was so proud of that I could read tarot decks, right? And that I could help people with that and clarify things. So what I did, I was in a square in Peru or in Colombia, and I was just sitting with my tarot decks on the ground, and the people came to me, can you do that? And I said, yeah. And serious, it took half an hour, and there was a line. And I was just doing tarot deck, reading the tarot. And then I figured out, like, there was a situation where somebody came to me 3 times, and the spirit told me, I'm not going to answer you anything anymore. This woman already had the answer, but she's not ready for it. And if she's not ready, so basically, then I said, but why does she want to? Why does she doesn't want to hear the message? And the spirit said this to me: it's not about her; it's about you. Did you ask consent for if she was ready for the message, for answers? no, it was your ego. You wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you opened the portal. And yeah, of course, we will give you answers. But then we also had to undo stuff because she was not ready for that at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, that was like a tremendous lesson for me. I was like, okay, from now on, I will never, never, never do it without asking anybody permission. And I just wait till they ask me. So yeah, it's a funny story, the tarot. Yeah. Do you have
Yeah,
something similar? Like,
yeah,
do you
but
have?
it's the same thing. Essentially, it's coming to the same thing, that unless people want our support, unless people are ready and they are looking and they are willing, because I think like that really goes into this other really important thing about self-authorship, expression, authenticity, is that we can have insight. Insight is important. We can know what we want to do. We can have the vision. We can know the dream. And unless we take action, unless we are willing to suck, to try something and be bad at it as we grow and grow
Oh
our
yeah.
confidence, it's like we will be keeping ourselves in the safe zone without using the creative spirit. And so confidence in the creative process, which I really believe is the most beautiful canvas that we can ever paint, is our life. It's like unless we are willing to use our action, our will, our solar energy out into the world, showing ourselves, not because I want to prove who I am, but simply because I have the right to exist. Like
And to be.
and to be and to express and to
We are human beings.
we are human beings, and beingness is the basis of everything.
Yeah.
But consciousness, and consciousness has two aspects. One of them is the witnessing, and the other one is the direction. So one is not more important than the other, even though being is the root of everything. Everything starts and ends in being. And at the same time, it is through that being that we get to activate our becoming. And it's so important that in the world of becoming ourselves, of really tapping into who we are, we must go beyond information and insight and awareness and into self-expression and self-authority and self-creation, which requires our loving action. It requires us to fall in love with the lifestyle that we say we want and to put our best foot forward and to embody it, to live it, not to say what I want that one day, because there's hope is nice, but what really changes our life is the plan.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Without
that also
outcome.
means that shadow work is a big important step in the journey to really live in your power, because like I also feel from my personal perspective that I didn't left some stuff behind, so I could not really fully embrace this full potential of my life because
Yeah.
something was holding me back. I was like pulling a car or having a heavy backpack on with stones, and I was like, and yeah, this to have that self-awareness, like what am I carrying with me, what is not, what is ready to be released, what can
Totally.
I let go so I can be
Mhm.
free. You cannot
Yeah.
see it on the camera, but my arms were open. Yeah.
Because we were speaking before we started this conversation with Chancel of like how walking our own path is challenging. The truth is that it's really comfortable to get a weekly paycheck or a monthly paycheck, and
Oh yeah.
but I really see that it can also be the thing that drains human life force the most when we're not doing the thing that we're really here to be doing. I see it suck the life out of people that come to me in experiencing wealth and experiencing seeming success on the outside. And if they have not had an outlet for self authorship and for self expression, or for actually having clarity of what is it that they want, they need, what do they want to create, what kind of contribution are they here to make, it's like you can have, and it doesn't have to be one path of the other. You can have both paths at the same time, but it's important that we have a meaning, that we have meaning in our life. Because if we don't, if we don't, and we just go into this mold or this, path that somebody else created for us, then we're not living our own life. And it's
No.
not easy to go into, a crazy jungle, which is what it feels like, and try to say like, oh, I'm gonna go down this path. There's no path for us, and it takes a lot of courage to move in our own direction. And so if you're moving in your own direction, I really want to like witness you and celebrate you, and just give you some like vital force to keep going, even if it feels like your efforts are not being celebrated or witnessed or valued, because those actions that we're taking, even if nobody else sees them, they are changing our character. The acts of kindness, the acts of contribution, the acts of service, they are, yes, they're to share, but really what they're stating into the field of consciousness is who we are. So they are very much as much for who we are choosing to be than it is for the greater whole of what we want to do. So keep at it. Create the life that you want shamelessly.
I definitely had like in this life more lives than a cat.
Same.
Yeah. I mean,
Same.
like serious. And so that I'm just saying that because it is possible. You can be what you want. You can
Yeah.
change always. There's no age. There's no sex. It doesn't matter. Your wallet. It doesn't matter. Like it is always possible to change, and it starts here and here.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. Yeah, tap into your heart, drop your mind to your heart. Allow your mind to be what follows your experience, but let your heart be the leader. I think like that's the thing. Let your mind be a really good employee to your heart. Don't confuse your mind with who you are.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love it when you close your eyes because like it invites me straight away to go in, and I feel like I'm tending to close my eyes as well, and it feels so nice.
It's so nice. It's so nice.
Thank you so much, Sandra,
My
for
pleasure.
showing up with your beautiful sunshine energy as you are. And I wish you so much happiness and so much prosperity and abundance on your path.
Yeah.
Also,
thank you so much. And if people want to find me, they can go ahead to, I have a lot of freebies and meditations and
I will put the links underneath as well. Sandra Tru.
Yeah. SandraTru.com.
Social media, YouTube. You have your beautiful website.
Yeah,
Is
I
there
have
something
my
I missed? Your
My podcast,
podcast.
The True Awakening, Your True Awakening, and and LinkedIn. So stay connected. I'd love to just keep sharing with you and hear from you if this podcast was helpful for you, and sharing so much love and so much gratitude for you, dear brother. Blessings on your path.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for walking the path with us. If this episode touches something in you, share it and follow the journey on YouTube, Instagram, or on one of your favorite platforms. Until next time, keep listening to your soul. With love, Chancel Holistic Coaching, the Purpose Path Podcast.